Please look at them. If you work in the public sector, we're able to supply you this test free of charge to use it, whatever context you have. But we need to do it in an organized way so that you can use it effectively. Next. Go back, sorry. Go back, yeah. And these are some examples in which we've used it in schools, camps, hospitals for triaging. The sports festival that just held in Edo, every single athlete was tested. And that enabled the sports festival to hold. If not, it would not have held. The federal government said we will only allow the sports festival if we can guarantee that everyone in that sports festival is negative for COVID. So really, this has enabled a lot of activities to happen that would not normally have happened during this era of COVID. Next. The other thing that is happening now is people ask us, the small number of cases you find every day, is it because you're not testing? This is the number of tests that we do weekly. So these numbers, this is 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. So you can see that up to end of last week, we're still doing between 30 and 40,000 tests per week. It has fallen a bit over the last week, but still over 20,000. So we're still testing a fair number of people every week across the country. And therefore, we're fairly confident on the numbers that we have. Next. And that's why, go back, and that's why this is something we call the test positivity ratio. So the number of positives among all the individuals tested. So we're around 1%. So 1 in 100 individuals tested right now turns out positive for COVID. So we're fairly confident that the levels of transmission in Nigeria now are very low. Next. And this you can't see, but these are just to show you that we monitor. These are the number of tests done by every lab in Nigeria, cumulatively, throughout the outbreak. And so the labs that have done the most, NRL in Abuja and the LSB lab in Lagos, have done the most tests per lab. So anyone interested can see that works in any of these labs, can see where your lab stands in terms of how many tests and how much you've contributed to diagnosis throughout the outbreak. Next. So we'll start rounding up. What have been the key lessons learned? One of the key lessons is that no group, not NCDC, not AMLSN, not state governments, not private sector can do this on our own. So we really have to learn how to collaborate, especially in our big country. So really, this is everyone's business, building laboratory capacity, because without it, we could not have restarted the economy. We could not be talking about holding this meeting if we're not fairly confident on the testing opportunities that we have. So we really have to learn how to collaborate more in the work we do collectively. Next. Like I said earlier, we have to start moving away from vertical thinking around diagnosis. So building HIV labs, TB labs, influenza labs, antimicrobial resistance labs. We really have to think about integrating our platforms, integrating our labs, integrating our supply chain, integrating our sample transportation. Without it, we will be building again every time there's a new pandemic, of which I'm almost certain there will be. So this is really hard sometimes, because sometimes funding is vertical. And it's very difficult to have conversations with people only interested in TB funding that no, you also want to use it for COVID or for influenza. But we have to find the courage to have those difficult discussions. Next. And it is happening. We need to better coordinate our efforts. And a lot of the work that we are doing are interdependent on each other. And ministries, departments, agencies that are set up for one purpose cannot fulfill that purpose if the regulatory agency is not working, if the distribution agency is not working. So we need to think about how to coordinate our work. And sometimes it's not only government. In states, in my experience during this outbreak, you see a lab in a federal medical center in the capital of a state. You see a lab run by its public health department. And very difficult to get those two labs to collaborate. So we have to push further in that direction. Next. Next slide. Some challenges. Capacity is limited, and this is not easy to build. So we have started. I know the capacity for molecular diagnosis in Nigeria in the last year must have seen exponential growth. Exponential growth. So how do we now sustain this to move forward and use all these new methods available to us? So we're trying to slowly move into a building phase so that we can have a more sustained training for everyone in the sector. Not only training in diagnosis, but training in quality assurance, in supply chain, and all the other needs around this. Next. So like I was saying, when His Excellency, the Vice President, visited our lab, I made sure that he's aware of the work that your colleagues do. Some of you will recognize some of your colleagues in this picture. He went around the lab, very impressed at the work Nigerians are doing in this lab, surprised at the level of capacity that existed, and assured us that as we come out of this pandemic, the work that your colleagues have done and will have to continue doing will not be forgotten. And this will be raised to really a health security challenge for the country, and we'll see how we can leverage on the support that we're getting at the moment. Next. Right now, we're struggling a little bit to keep colleagues motivated. This is natural. We've been at this for about a year and a half. We have somehow cannot drop the ball until we get our vaccine coverage up. So this is also an appeal to everyone in this room that's involved in this one way or the other to keep finding the motivation to continue till we get out of the pandemic. Next. And this has been one of our biggest challenges, to make sure that the supply chain is sustained, that we can get reagents to every lab across the country. And with reagents, many of them have a short shelf life. So not only do we have to get it to you, we can't send you too many too early, because in the next 2 months, if you can't use it, they expire. So we really have to understand utilization patterns in deciding what reagents to send to what labs in the country. Next. Waste management I've spoken about, very big investments needed in incinerators. Those incinerators have to be kept going. Sometimes people think it's easier to just dig a hole and put everything inside, but we will pay a price in a few generations ahead of us if we do that. So we have to make sure we have the appropriate incinerators to manage medical waste. Next. And as we start thinking about the future will not be singular. And this will really be our biggest challenge, is how to coordinate efforts around clinical and public health labs into a kind of hub and spoke approach across the country. Next. So we're about to end. These are just some critical problems we've identified, from poor quality assurance, communication. The work environment in many labs is really not appealing to spend your entire day in. Training, the facility itself, reference. So this is how we're thinking about this, as a system, not as individual labs. And through working together with many partners, trying to next find solutions to all of this together. Next. So please don't worry about going through this, but I'll tell you what this stands for. This is infrastructure, personnel, quality and safety, testing, funding. So we're looking at different solutions to all of this. In some labs, you have great labs, but there's power supply issues. So there's no gen, or there's a gen and no diesel. And we can't solve that from Abuja, so we're looking at who else can solve that. So these problems are complex, and there are no simple solutions to them. And that's really why it takes all of us to work together to find solutions. But the key thing, nobody thinks that this is simple anymore. It is not about procuring equipment and sending them around the country. It's really about thinking together on how we can solve this as a system together. Next. So finally, the key lessons learned. I think the role of the labs and laboratory science altogether has completely changed in the country. The challenge that we have collectively is, what do we do with it? Do we go back to business as usual? Or do we take on this challenge and use this opportunity to advocate for more? We need to build a long-term commitment to training staff in new methods. Laboratory sciences evolve so quickly, that if you're not on top of the ball in terms of building capacity, in a couple of years, whatever skills you have are obsolete. We need to build a supply chain to sustain the labs. It is inefficient, expensive to be buying reagents in small quantities, and every state buying its own small quantity, and every lab buying its own small quantity. So we need to find a supply chain that works for all of us. Without genomic surveillance, the capacity to do sequencing, we will be left behind. There's no doubt about that. So we have to build capacities, onerous and scary for many of us, but this is the future of laboratory medicine. This is the future. So if you want to build your skills right now, really think about sequencing. So I'd like to end by really thanking so many partners, groups that have supported our work in different ways and continue to support our work. Everyone knows that the resources in government is constrained, the capacity to expand is constrained, so we've had to rely on many partners to keep building the work we do on your behalf across the country. And I hope that within the next few years, with the support of all of you, we can completely transform laboratory medicine in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
I don't think this applause is enough. Maybe you're just giving me an applause for being here. But if it's for Dr. Chikwe, I think he deserves more. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much, sir.
Sir, please, we're not done yet. I think you have to receive your award right now. And to present the award to Dr. Chikwe Hikazo, permit me to invite Professor Eugene Ike to lead the process. Professor Eugene Ike, the registrar of the West African Postgraduate College.
Professor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists of Nigeria present this distinguished award to Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, DG Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, keynote address speaker, for your contributions to development of the health system in Nigeria on this day, the 20th May 2021. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, the DG and CDC.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Well-deserved award. May I also let you know that he is also the co-founder of EPI Africa and the curator of National Health Watch. Please, a round of applause for him. He was in Johannesburg for some time before he returned to Nigeria. And since he has been making waves and of course assumed office on the 13th of November 2018. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic is not over. So many lessons to learn from the outbreak of the Spanish flu, 1918 to 1920, that claimed almost 100 million lives. 5% of the world's population, 500 million, were infected because of the ignorance that existed during the day. And so please, the pandemic is not over. Let us continue to observe all COVID-19 protocols. Having said that, permit me to make a few announcements. Let me let you know that glucose screening test for all participants is available outside. So find your way to the registration point. It is free for all. Also, we have the post-rate specific antigen test for special guests and senior citizens, also available at the registration point. Please take advantage of the opportunity. A few dignitaries walked in while the keynote address was being said. Permit me to welcome the former national president between 2011 and 2014. He's also the registrar, West African Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science, in person of Dr. G.C. Okara. Please a round of applause for Dr. G.C. Okara. We can't forget your legacy. You have taken us to the limelight during your time as national president. Another dignitary that walked in is the chairperson, AMLSN Board of Trustees, in person of Chief Mrs. Aduni Chinyere Udu. Please a round of applause for her. I call her the $1 million woman. We're happy to have you around. She's so eclectic and evergreen. Anytime you see her, always as young and beautiful. Also, another dignitary that walked in is the chairman, Board of Fellows, Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists of Nigeria, in person of Bona Lamadin. Please a round of applause for him. Thank you very much, sir. Gloria.
Thank you very much, Idoko. You know, when the pandemic broke, we were told to do a lot of things. Sanitize, use alcohol-based sanitizer, social distancing, and so on.
Hand washing.
So we're in this village for awareness creation on COVID-19. And we were told that the people decided to take matters into their own hands, and they were drinking all the alcohol in the village, because that way they will be very safe from coronavirus. And they drank so much that there was no alcohol in that village for 2 days.
Oh my goodness.
Whether or not nobody caught COVID there, that is for AMLSN to find out.
That is so much of ignorance, I must say, Gloria.
On the entourage of the representative of the governor of Jigawa State, that is the entourage of the deputy governor, Alhaji Umar Namadi, there are a number of commissioners with him. We have Honorable Babangida Umar, the Commissioner for Finance, Honorable Salisu Zakari, Commissioner for Commerce. Can we see you, gentlemen?
You're welcome, sir.
We have
Congratulations.
Honorable Kabiru Hassan, Commissioner for Local Government. Honorable Ibrahim Garba, Commissioner for Water Resources.
Thank you for coming.
Honorable Hajia Yelwa Dao, Commissioner for Women Affairs.
You're welcome, ma.
And Dr. Salisu Moazu, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for coming to represent your governor. Well, we've been here for a while, and we've heard so much. And there's so much more to talk about on this virus that has caused us to change our lifestyles, to think again, and to work collectively as a people in order to stay safe and to stay healthy. To appreciate the work that has been done so far and the work that still needs to be done, so we need some encouragement, I will invite the Aura Cultural Troupe from the Federal Capital Territory to come and entertain us, to thank members of AMLSN for all the work they're doing. All work and no play will certainly make us all dull boys and girls. that because we're such intelligent people, let's appreciate all the effort you have put into your work and you continue to put into the work that you do in the various laboratories and institutions across the country. Oral Cultural Troupe, please come in for your 3 minutes presentation. Immediately after that, we'll go into some other presentations and the awards will also be given out. Oral Cultural Troupe, please can you come in quickly? You only have 3 minutes for your presentation. They are an indigenous cultural troupe here in the Federal Capital Territory.
Yes, sure, I can see them all donned in their colorful attire. It promises to be entertaining.
Of course.
I believe we would step down and all the sleepy eyes will wake up.
And maybe there will just be some cultural ideas to medical laboratory practice also as a motivation. 3 minutes.